So you are a biotech student. You were also the lead of the team in SoftBank, and then you are a founder and CEO for Foodhak, and you've been featured on Sky News, Hello India, Times, so many places. And you're also a mother for two lovely kids. So basically, there's a lot going on. But why don't we start with the beginning? What made you want to pursue a degree in biotech?
I've always had a love for science. I feel like our bodies work like machines, and I think machines are quite fascinating because I think that's the future. And so that's what got me really interested in biology. And biology is quite closely linked with chemistry, which is closely linked with physics, which is closely linked with math. And so I ended up studying that and, ended up right from an early age, ended up doing lots of internships because I wanted to know what I wanted to be. And I wanted to know what I wanted to be by doing it first and being sure, and then kind of going deep into the education side of things. So when I was in year 10, I did like a short internship at Apollo Hospital in like the emergency department. Around that age I really wanted to be a doctor, and so I
Yeah.
wanted to see what it's like to be in the life of a doctor. And it was a very disturbing summer, to say the least. I lost a lot of weight, which was great, but it was, I just the stress, the anxiety, and so from there on, began my journey. If not a doctor, then what? And so I applied for biotech, which was, the next closest thing I could find, and went to study biotech in my undergrad. Um, while I was studying biotech, I wanted to, test out finance because a lot of my friends were getting into finance, and that was
Yeah.
the era of
Yeah.
finance where everybody wanted to, be in the city of London. And so ended up doing an internship at a wealth manager, which had, boutique private equity and, various different investment vehicles. And I was just doing their mundane sort of back office, middle office, front office, wherever I could get an opportunity. While doing that, it was interesting, but I just felt that, it was like I still had my science curiosity that I wanted to pursue. And so decided to, look for, a full-time job post university in the field of science. And that's when I kind of stumbled across, just researching. I stumbled across Arts Club on Thursdays used to host this CEO slash senior leader, event in London, for the pharma industry. And obviously pharma was the closest to what I was doing, which was biotech. And yeah, I managed to make my way in. you
You
know
hustled your way
I
in.
hustled my way in, um, somehow, because I wasn't really a member. So I just took a very generic British name, walked in confidently, and they let me in. And here I was, surrounded by all these industry leaders, from the government to, pharmaceutical companies, small, medium, large size. Ended up doing an interview, um, with one of the CEOs, and yeah, that's how I kind of, got my break into regulatory. This wasn't Pfizer. And back in the day, people used to put their phone numbers on Google. And so I stumbled across the phone number of this man who ran the entire Pfizer's regulatory in Europe. Picked up the phone, asking for his view. He thought I was an MBA student. He had just finished his MBA from LBS and was very pro MBAs. And so gave me the opportunity to come and meet him. Had a good meeting. We exchanged notes, and then I basically pitched him the idea that, why don't you have a summer? Oh, sorry, not even summer. Why don't you have an associate program? All your competitors do. So people like me who will graduate next year, you will get us for free. We'll work very hard, right? You give us a little bit of training in regulatory, but very soon we'll come, you know, up on that learning curve, and your competitors are doing it. Why don't you do it? And so he liked the idea, and he said, okay, let me take it back to my board, I'll be in touch. And then throughout I kind of kept in touch with him. He went back to his board, the board gave him approval, and here I was invited for an interview for a job that I had just basically created.
Yeah, that's
um,
crazy. How young were you?
I was 20,
Yeah.
20 years old.
Wow.
I was 20 years old.
Yeah. Since you were talking about how you were as a child and how you did an internship that young, even like while researching you on maybe Instagram, and now that I'm in your presence as well, I feel there to be this sense of uh, this intention to want to have your own identity very strongly from you. Has that been something which you always had, or have you cultivated over time to, have that, yeah, this is, me?
I think my father has always instilled that from a very beginning. He's always treated us growing up in India as, you're no less than a man, you're no less than a boy. You should fend for yourself, financial independence, the confidence to ask question. No question is a bad question. So we grew up hearing these things over and over again,
Yeah.
you know. And so, to be fair, right in the very beginning, I've never been afraid to ask questions, and I think that gives you a deeper understanding of any subjects. When you have that confidence to ask a question, you have the answers, you've gone so deep into anything. And I think that's sort of been our upbringing, really.
Amazing. So after your internship, you ended up doing a master's, and then you moved to SoftBank, where you weren't just working for them, but you were the first female investor in London office. And when you were pregnant, you didn't take maternity leave, and they put up a nursing room for you. How did that happen?
So, to be honest, I'm not proud of the fact that, I didn't take a maternity leave. I don't think it's anything to be proud of or be guilty of. I think it's a very personal choice. And
100%.
every woman has her own journey of motherhood. I just happened to be in a position where, I was in the middle of these deals that I had been leading. Like one of them was like the first big investment we were making in Brazil, and I'd known the founder over 9 months and done so much due diligence, and there was so much pushback internally because Brazil is a different unknown territory which is open to various macroeconomic volatilities in currency and whatnot. And so, my first baby came a month earlier, which meant that I had to pretty much abandon the deed, and I didn't want to do that because I felt like I had a duty towards my founder, who I'd been working
100%.
with for so long. And so, I've always had my mom, who's been a big help, and she was there with me. And so, you know, I somehow managed to actually take that deal into IC when my firstborn, Rayan, was 9 days old,
Wow.
or something, and managed to get it passed in the IC, and we ended up doing the investment, and it was good investment. Um, and second time around, something similar happened, where again, I was in the middle of a very important. But yes, like I managed to not take a maternity leave and managed to power through, and to me, it was a nice break.
You also got a very rare disease, obstetric cholestasis,
Yeah,
which seems to be quite daunting because it practically breaks down your liver.
yeah.
How did you take the news?
It was very stressful, and I had to stop everything that I was doing, to make sure that self care, getting your body prepared for an early birth. But yeah, it is quite stressful. Essentially it's a breakdown of the liver where excess bile hangs around. It can be poisonous for the child if you
Yeah,
leave them in too long, and if you take them out too early, then you know they can be premature related
yeah,
effects, which you can take years to recover from. So
yeah.
it's a tough decision, and it's your doctor's decision.
Also, the bile is pushed into the bloodstream,
Yeah,
like it's,
yeah,
and there's no
yeah,
cure for it.
yeah. Exactly. There's no cure. And the doctor basically said, oh, there's no link with any food, any nothing. And that's when I didn't necessarily take no as an answer, because again, going back to the basics, our bodies are like machines,
Right.
right? And so I went back into what I knew, which was clinical research. And I found a lot of correlations with food and disease reversals, disease prevention, longevity, and it was a long journey, but basically changed my foods and managed to completely avoid it slash reverse it, which is quite unheard of. And the doctors were quite surprised as well. So yeah, that's how this whole food hack journey began. That was the inspiration, where back at work, we're allowed to have a lunch budget where, we're allowed to order things in from Deliveroo, but I couldn't order anything. There was nothing I could order.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's when I thought maybe there are other people, maybe there are other issues, and the food around us needs to change. It needs to be more intelligent, it needs to be more healthcare focused without taking the taste away. And so that's when I started working with the doctors on the side of SoftBank. On weekends, some evenings, we would get together and we would find links between food and, or characteristics of food and diseases. And then we would try and create recipes which were
Yeah.
delicious, because all of us are foodies. um, and that's how it all began. And they had their patient group. When they heard about it, they said, well, why don't you guys do a soft launch, because we are keen to have this food. So what was supposed to be a week-long soft launch from my home kitchen
Yeah.
ended up into this 4-month long, soft launch, where it was completely demand driven, where people just didn't let us shut it down, saying, please, we can't ever eat anything outside, but this has changed our lives.
Yeah.
It's given me a break from the cooking and the research. I suffer from X, Y,
Hmm.
Z issues. Um, and even the number of orders we were doing grew a lot. We learned a lot
Yeah.
from that. um, so those were early signs that, I think the world kind of needs this new way of eating, or new, recipes.
It's so crazy because food as medicine practically comes from Indian culture, comes from
Yeah,
Ayurveda.
yeah,
And in this day and age, I think the one thing that people suffer from the most is heart related problems. And there are so many studies by Western, doctors, case studies, where they are saying that it can be reversed just by changing what you're eating, and that too in 3 weeks.
yeah,
And for some reason it's not something that it's not something that everybody knows, that you can do that just by food.
yeah,
It's absolutely crazy.
yeah. I mean, I feel like more and more people are realizing it, and they kind of know it somewhere, um, but I think they don't have the tools to do anything about it, because,
Yeah.
like, the research is quite noisy, so you really have to be able to segregate the signal from noise. And that's where we use technology to help us do that. Because if you don't have that, it can take you hours, right, trying to understand what is a good research versus a bad research, what's trying to misdirect you, what actual ingredient and disease are linked. And so I think the tools are missing, which is what we are trying to create by building the food, but by also building software. Hopefully, we'll be able to, provide that to everybody, where they can do these ingredient swaps, where they can, in their day-to-day cooking at home, um, or they can order this food when
Is
they don't
that
want to cook.
something you're working towards?
Yeah, that is something, we've been working on this technology now for 2 years, and finally our data models are, ready, and we're now building features that consumers can use, in the form of apps and things, but building these tools to bring you a step closer towards food as medicine.
But that is such a purpose driven thing, because you're literally attempting to heal the world with something that's already there, food.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of pharmaceutical products are made from food ingredients.
Yeah.
People forget that, right? Vitamins and minerals are naturally found in your food, fruits and vegetables.
100%.
The issue is that sometimes in certain cultures, including India, we end up overcooking the food.
Yeah.
We end up using too much oil. We end up
Spices as well.
using, well, I mean, spices to a certain extent are fine. And then there's also interaction. So if you look at Ayurveda, it's not just about like foods, it's also about ingredient interactions, right? Like, how should you eat a certain fruit or a certain vegetable, in what format? Like apples are best eaten when they're steamed, small,
Oh.
yeah, or like you shouldn't combine fruit with yogurt. that
Yeah.
this So Ayurveda is also about interaction. So spices are good, but to a certain ratio, in a certain interaction, in a certain quantity, right? Similarly, vegetables, right, each vegetable has a different cooking time. Similarly, oils, each oil has a different characteristic, and they need to be measured. Like, 1 tablespoon would mean 1 tablespoon. It doesn't mean a dollop of oil. Cooking it for a vegetable for 7 minutes means 7 minutes. And when you follow food science, um, that's when you're able to see all your vitamins and minerals intact in the food that you're eating every day. And so you don't need to, spend money on expensive vitamins and supplements,
Yeah.
which don't actually get absorbed properly by your bodies,
Yeah.
because they are foreign substances and each one has a different bioabsorption profile, right? Um, and back in the day in Ayurveda, there weren't any foreign capsules
Yeah.
or tablets in the form of vitamin min. It was food that was being used to cure and heal and prevent, right? So it's just, bringing a step closer to food science to make sure you're eating something which is designed for taste, but also for healthcare.
Right. Coming to your entrepreneurial journey. So this is how Food Hacks started. But it's such a big step to take. Like, you were at the peak of your career. And of course, you were doing soft launches and you saw the response. But leaving that and starting something, when your kids are still quite young, and, the corporate world is what you're used to, but getting into the entrepreneurial side of the whole thing. What was that one thing that made you really go with it? Like, why was that okay, fine, I'm just doing this now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I was talking about my whole journey, right? So it started with my first kid while I was doing this on the side. We did a soft launch, which further validated it. At this point, I was pregnant with my second one,
Yeah.
and the OC that was supposed to come never really came because, I was on this sort of journey. And then this was all during COVID. So it
Yeah.
actually gave me a chance to put pen down to paper and see if it's a real business model. So what made me take that leap was that business model, aha moment, where it's like when I put it down on an Excel sheet by doing all my research of comps and whatnot, you know I also had an advantage that I had been in SoftBank. I had sat on the boards of
Yeah.
various logistics companies. I had seen economics of various food companies from around the world. So I had sort of reverse engineered all the learnings that worked for these kind of businesses and basically eliminated all the things that didn't work for these kind of businesses. Um, and so, that was my advantage. But when I had put that down on paper, I saw great margins. I saw a differentiated product, which in today's day and age you never get to see.
Yeah.
It was the fastest growing market, and there was a product market fit. So, as an investor's hat on, this was a time when I would double down in a company, right? And so now it was time to double down on myself,
Right.
right? Given these four characteristics. So for me, the decision was very business and its future potential
Correct.
focus.
You were
Like I
looking
want to
at long
build,
term.
yeah, I want to, build the next Unilever, which is backed by tech and science, where any food product that you consume or anything you drink from teas, coffees, it should all be backed by science. It should all be, delicious, but it should be adding value to your healthcare.
Yeah.
This we believe is the future of food.
Can I say, I just love how you're, saying so openly, I want to build the next Unilever. Like, it just shows that even in the beginning when you were talking about what you wanted to do as a child and, things like that, just shows that, it's your natural thing to be dreaming big. Is that why you think you could take the step of Food Hack as well?
Possibly. I mean, also SoftBank, it was a great experience. It
Yeah.
makes you think big, it makes you look big, So, of course, I mean, I feel like every experience in life is a learning experience you're developing and building. So, all of that has, led to this. And I'm sure I'll continue to learn and build. And I'm learning so many different things from being
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, compared to being an investor before. Um, so yeah, I think all of that kind of leads you to, find your way. um, I've always been ambitious,
Yeah. You seem like.
yeah, I've always been ambitious. I've always wanted to make a positive impact in the world that we're living in. And so actually the biggest motivator behind making the switch, between SoftBank and Foodhack, obviously keeping the business aside, was knowing that tomorrow when I'm 80, 90, 100 years old and I look back at my life, I'll be happy to know that, okay, I worked hard to provide a good life for my kids, for my family, but also I did my bit to help people with their health and to help the planet. So it's so the business, um, it's an added benefit that, it's a good business, but at the same time it also does something good
Yeah.
for people and the planet. So that is the extra motivation that all of us at Foodhak have. Like, we feel very proud,
Yeah.
that we're not just building another curry or another like burger or another fake meat or another, we're actually doing something good for your health and for the planet. And that, motivation, it takes you a long way.
But coming to your corporate journey, this is something that really fascinates me, because you've transitioned from a corporate world to entrepreneurial side of the thing. Uh, how was the shift like? How was the transition? And also, do you think being an entrepreneur is more fulfilling than what you were doing before?
Um, so I think let's take the first question, right? So
Yeah,
the journey from corporate into entrepreneurial, the switch was quite smooth, I would say, because I took my time to do it. I'm in my
yeah,
30s. I'm not in my 20s, where you are trying to earn, you're trying to learn, you're trying to have enough credibility so you can go out. It's a very stressful thing to do in your 20s,
yeah,
right? I worked for a long time, and I developed the credibility in this world of investing and investors, and I'd shown them track record, and you know, um, so that was a big help. um, I had some savings by this time, right? Which also kind of put me at ease that for the next couple of years, I can give up, sacrifice my salary because I have enough savings, and still carry on with my life,
yeah,
without stressing out too much, which would have been difficult to do in your 20s.
yeah,
So I think the whole financial independence part like made it a lot smoother. Plus, I felt so much more confident. Like I said, I mean, I've been on the boards of companies for
yeah,
so many years,
yeah,
where I just learned so much, at someone else's expense, right?
100%.
So I just felt a lot more confident, where every big decision we have made, big money decision or whatever, it's been a well calculated one where tomorrow I'll have no regrets. It might not go our way, but it wouldn't be because of lack of experience or lack of thought or
Yeah,
analysis. It would be lack of, I don't have control over macroeconomic it'll be for
yeah,
an unknown reason.
yeah,
It won't be for a lack of knowledge.
yeah,
So I think these factors made it very smooth transition. I was just ready. I think I had a great time at SoftBank. I really did. I love my team. We were doing life sciences investing and food sciences investing and logistics and some fintech and some groundbreaking companies and some companies that were building new markets. And it just gave me the opportunity to meet amazing people, push science, push markets, to build new products. It was super empowering. Had a great time. Amazing bosses who were more like friends than bosses.
yeah,
Colleagues who were even smarter than me. People who would report to me so much junior than me, but I felt like they were so much smarter than me. So it was a very, very fun time together. And I also, there were so many changes in SoftBank when I was there. Um, so I had a great time, but I just felt like I had learned a lot, and I kind of felt like maybe I'd gotten to a point where my learning curve was sort of starting to flatten out.
yeah,
And so I was just eager to actually, build Foodhak, like build something from scratch, which is a feeling that you can't get in the investing world. You get other feelings,
yeah,
you feel very happy when you do a good deal, you feel sad when you miss out on a deal, different emotions. But to build something from scratch, you have to take this difficult step, you
yeah.
know. But yeah, that journey was smooth for these reasons. And then what was your second question?
Is this more fulfilling than what you were doing before?
It's it would be unfair to say yes right now, because it's not apples for apples, right? Because
Yeah,
I'm comparing to the time I left, but
yeah,
by the time I left, I learned so much.
yeah,
In the beginning, when I joined SoftBank, it was a whirlwind. Like, there was so much to learn,
yeah,
and you know there was just so much excitement. Tech was like going big, especially in emerging markets, and new businesses and companies and products were being built, and we had a role to play in, writing those large checks to enable them, to get to where they are. So that was an exciting feeling as well. um, but having said that, I still do think that this is more fulfilling, because of that, that holy trinity factor that I mentioned, which is,
Yes.
it's a good business, but at the same time you're doing something good for people's health and for the planet. You're
Yeah.
actually building the future of food. You're And there will be competitors. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. But at least you are building a new market, or you're pushing an existing market to become more innovative, to bring healthcare in people's hands. So I
Yeah.
think, and you're building something from scratch,
Yeah.
right? So that's really, really difficult. It's really difficult thing to
Yeah.
do. And currently, the environment we're living in, we all know this, it is a difficult environment, especially in the UK, with bills, prices going up, and labor shortages, and
Yeah.
Brexit, and the war. you know it's had a massive impact on the food industry, so it is a difficult time to be doing this. Um, so all the success we've had, all the success we're going to have, just makes it way more fulfilling.
Yeah. The reason why I asked this is because there's a hustle culture happening in the Gen Z, like people like to put it. Because most of the people, maybe they want to work for a year or two, but they want to start something of their own. There's a big hustle culture amongst the youth, amongst all of us, and I wonder if it's because of that fulfillment, that people are drifting more towards starting something of their own than to be in the safe zones of working in the corporates. But coming to you, I really wanted to ask you, now that you've experienced both, and of course you've learned a lot from your corporate journey, but if you could go back in time, would you start your entrepreneurial journey a little earlier?
No,
No.
no. Because, like I said, I think, I've always been financially independent right from an early age. Like when I was working at Pfizer, I was like 21. I didn't take any money from my dad. I lived near Pfizer offices in Surrey, where rents were cheaper. I had my own little secondhand car, which
Yeah.
was bought by my own money. So I've been financially independent for so long
Yeah.
that if I had started it in my 20s, I think it would have been very stressful for me.
Yeah.
And I think it would have caused me to make wrong decisions or to take shortcuts. I mean, I worry.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't have. Some
Yeah.
people can manage, financial restraints a lot better than others
Yeah.
in their 20s, for example. But I'm very happy that I'm very comfortable, actually, because I just feel like every decision I'm making, I'm quite confident
Yeah.
that, I have thought through this, I have seen it in my experience to be working or not working. I have ran the numbers, I have spoken to my colleagues, my network. Now that,
Yeah.
there's a much bigger network you have in your 30s than you have in your 20s.
Yeah.
So I've taken every possible step there is, to make these important decisions which can make or break the company, which I wouldn't have been able to do in my 20s because I wouldn't have had the tools. I wouldn't have had my own experience, my own track record, my own network, my own savings. So I'm really happy that I did this now, because when you start a business, it's not just about you. It's about 30 other people you're employing.
Yeah.
It's about 50 other people you're employing. It's about 50 other families who, that salary check is supporting.
Yeah, and even with the numbers, how well put through you are with the numbers, it is very clear that there's a big vision behind this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see what happens.
Me too. Fingers crossed.
I have no doubt. I really have no doubt because you seem like that person. You're going to get it one way or the other, but you're going to get it. But now I'm going to come to one of my favorite topics, which is failures. We've spoken so much about all your achievements and everything, but I love speaking about failures because I think on social media, everything is glorified. Everybody's putting their happy days, and that's not really how life is. But why don't you tell us about one time where you felt like you failed?
um So many times. I mean, we have so many failures. One part I missed in my early story was the whole doctor and
Yeah.
biotech decision, right? So it wasn't such a smooth decision. I actually still wanted to, despite that summer internship at the emergency
Yes.
department, I still wanted to, study medicine. And to be honest, I've never been book smart.
Okay.
Uh, Contrary to the belief, people think I'm
Yeah.
super smart. I don't think I'm super smart. Not on paper. Um, so I was performing quite well throughout the year. But when it comes to exams, I think I just overdo it. I work so hard that I didn't end up getting good sleep, and I was just over caffeinated, and I just didn't do so well in my exams. I didn't get good grades, and so I couldn't make it into medicine and took biotech instead.
Right.
That was a failure, huge failure, you
And
know.
such a big redirection in a way, if you see.
Yeah, it felt like a big
Now,
failure,
yeah.
but actually it was a blessing in disguise,
Yes.
because I was forcing myself to do something that I'm not naturally good at. It was quite forceful, which is like, for the next 5 years, forcefully study and get good grades, even though I'm not into studying and
Yeah.
exams. I'm more into doing. I like to, practically do stuff.
Yeah.
But that was a big failure at that age,
Yeah.
where you had planned everything around medicine, and suddenly you so. But I look back and I just think every failure has a silver lining. Had that not happened, God knows, maybe in the middle of my medicine degree I would have said, enough,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this
Yeah.
anymore. God knows.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'd finished it. Knowing me, I probably wouldn't have given up. I would have finished it. And by the time I would have finished it, I would have gone in this sort of rut of like, okay, now let's specialize and let's get into a specialism. And in my 30s, I probably would have just finished studying, and I just would have been miserable,
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
I just feel like every failure has a silver lining,
Yeah.
has a learning, and every failure I feel like is meant to happen, because it's meant to teach you something,
Yeah.
you know,
Is
and also makes you appreciate the highs, the successes. I mean, up until recently, um, even at Foodhak, we grew so much in the month of Jan. We were at this inflection point where we were a startup last year. And suddenly from there, the brand's taken so much traction where we are in retail stores. So we suddenly unlocked, retail, which is very large volumes from a very small warehouse that we have. We've got a D2C business, which has suddenly grown a lot because, you know, the brand's done well, people like the food, the variety, the price points, the health benefits. And so Jan had just, lots of things were breaking down.
yeah.
And that feels like failure, right? Where it's like, why is this thing not work? Oh, my last week was all about fixing this, and now this week this is broken.
Yeah.
And then the next week something else broke. And so Jan was a very difficult month. But actually, if you think about it, it's a really good problem to have. It's a
Yes.
champagne problem. We're growing.
Yes.
It's an inflection point, right? And yeah, each of those things that were breaking have taught us a lot. And
Yeah.
I'm glad it happened, because, today we're operating at, this scale. Imagine if it had happened at this scale, right? So much more money would have been wasted.
Yeah.
So much, um, that would have been disastrous. So I don't know. I look at failures as almost constructive feedback, things to learn from, things to become better at. So I feel like they can be a blessing in disguise. I'm
Yeah.
pushing it here, but I think they could be. It depends on
Yeah.
the way you look at it and what learning you take out of it.
Right. You know how you said that food hack, even in retail stores at this point and things like that. What was your biggest marketing strategy with this business?
I think the biggest strategy was to go for D2C and build a brand.
Hmm.
Building a brand is very difficult. It's expensive. It's time consuming.
Yeah.
It's energy draining. But our bet was that this will help drive retail, it'll help drive B2B, it'll help drive, so many other directions that we want to take
Yeah.
in the business. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
we continued to invest our time and resources, and, um, so I would say that was one. And we still believe that actually building a brand is the right thing, because we
Yeah.
live in a world where the consumer is utterly spoiled, because of all the progress tech has made, convenience delivered to your door, and consumer wants trust, and trust comes from brand, it comes from authority, it comes from sharing your beliefs and sharing how you're building these recipes, what kind of food you're building, why you're doing it,
Yeah.
what health benefits it has. It comes with transparency, right? And so all of this takes time.
Yeah.
All of this, sitting here talking to you, sharing the story,
Yeah.
right? This is all part of the story, right? We're all doing it for the brand. You're doing it for your podcast, I'm doing it for Foodhak, right? It's all you know part of the sort of brand building exercise, which I believe has been our big strategy.
Right. But do you think social media has helped you with this, or was it more mouth to mouth people? Um,
No, I think social media has been, definitely a big driver for us. We
mhm.
invested a lot in this, as well.
Yeah.
I mean, in the very beginning, I couldn't afford really expensive
Yeah.
hires or anything like that. So I ended up onboarding a lot of people as consultants,
Yeah.
freelancers, people who had built their own businesses, their own brands in the food space in London, in UK. And took their help as well, and one of them really pushed us in the whole social media direction, which is when we've kind of gone big on content and figuring out our own journey. So social media definitely has been helpful. Now we do all kinds of things. There's
Yeah.
performance marketing, there's influencers, there's you know um, but it helps that people are enjoying the food, because it's not about the first time purchase, it's about the repeat. Because what we say is, the reason it's a subscription is we want you to, this is a lifestyle, it's not a
Yeah.
takeout.
Yeah.
Give us certain number of meals, but stick to it week on week. you know Dedicate a certain part of your week towards this lifestyle to really
See the result.
the power of the power of
Yeah,
food as medicine.
100%. So I love asking this question because I would like to know the answer myself. I personally believe that there's a difference between successful and not so successful people, if we just term them that way. And in my opinion, the difference is not hard work. I think that everybody's working hard because it's a survival instinct. So the hard work, just hard work cannot be the answer. There is an element of something more. Um, so what do you think is the difference?
See, I completely disagree with you on that. I actually respectfully completely disagree on
Yeah,
that front, because what I've seen, I used to think like that when I was your age,
yeah,
because you're surrounded by students, you feel, and like attracts like,
yeah,
you're surrounded by other people who are working hard, who have a side hustle like you,
yeah,
and so that's all you're seeing, right? I think when you come into the real world, you'll see very quickly, and then as you grow up in the real world, right, you'll see very quickly that hard work is a big strength to have. um, like, I feel that I'm like, I will outdo anybody in hard work, and I think that's my strength.
yeah.
you know of course, luck is really useful for everybody,
Always
but
there, yeah.
it's something which is not in your control.
100%.
um, I think business requires like some level of street smartness versus book smartness, right? I think hard work is very important, and I think the next is just attitude to like not give up.
I was about to come to this because you know how you said that you think hard work is your biggest strength. Of course, it's a third person perspective, but I think that never give up.
Yeah.
And you seem like somebody for you, because I feel like never giving up attitude is something that's very strongly in, you know, in you. And I think that would be your biggest strength. Or um, you don't compromise. You seem like a person who would not compromise, who will have it like, you know, I want everything. And I love that.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't lower our standards in life, no matter what. And
Yeah,
if something is forcing you to lower your standards, it's not right.
right.
So I think the emphasis on quality, on striving for better, striving to be perfect, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and I definitely never give up. That's that's
yeah.
that's definitely a thing. But it comes with hard work. It is closely linked.
Of course, of course.
But yeah, so I agree with you on that front, on the never giving up. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you talk about how your husband has been a big support system. How there's a saying that behind every successful man, there's a woman. And also, it seems like behind every successful woman, there is a man as well. Um, what do you think? Because y'all have known each other for a very long time, right? Like, y'all met very young
Yeah, in high school.
in high school, so you have the dreamy high school sweetheart story. What do you think made you all survive for so long? Because considering that both of y'all are from India, and maybe y'all must have done your education apart or something. There might be an element of long distance and things like that at that time. What do you think made you survive for so long?
That's a tough question because I don't know exactly what made us survive. I think we found each other young, when we were super young. So, we didn't have all these lists that people now have and they grow up with. And I think the older you grow, the longer your lists become. So we didn't have any of that. We were quite innocent, at that age. We met at 15 or something. Um, Long distance wasn't easy. It was actually, quite a tough time.
How long did y'all do it for?
We were together for 10 years on and off. We were in different countries,
Yeah.
working, studying, etc. It wasn't easy at all, but I feel like we grew up together, so we understand each other better than anyone else who understands us, better than we might even understand ourselves. And that's really helpful because when you are running businesses, you will have tough times and you will have your failures and you will have moments of self doubt, you will have moments of exhaustion, you will have moments of depression, right? And to have that, support system who can just step in and be like, I've got this, like I will do this, the kids drop off this week and I'll pick them up, and just giving you that extra half an hour in the morning when you're at your lowest and you need to meditate and you need to exercise. um, I think I'm very lucky with that because I have a friend, who I've known forever, who
Yeah.
just gets me and I get him. Like, he's traveling a lot this entire month,
Yeah.
on and off, so I've been doing, the drop offs and pickups, and it's nice because it's
Yeah.
it's nice to know that I can help him when he needs me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to pick your partner who understands your ambition,
Yeah.
um, and who supports your ambition. And I think times are changing. I see
Yeah.
that with our friends from India, from here, from everywhere else, where the men are, standing up. They are here for equal responsibility with kids. They're here. They're very supportive of, women and their careers and their ambition. So hopefully this only becomes better.
100%. I told you this before as well, but on an outside, from an outside perspective, you seem to be living the most ideal life possible, right? Amazing relationship with your husband, two lovely kids, a great career, um, even in the corporate world, and now with your thing as well. But what is it like being in the shoes of Sakshi Mittal?
Oh God, life is a hustle every day.
Yeah.
I run a logistics business which has tech and science, but there is real product. It's regulated. I have a team, and it's a startup, and it's super scrappy. And you know, I have different divisions, and each division, has their own personalities and
Yeah.
alphas, and and there's a lot of logistics has a lot of, I don't know if hustle is the right word, but has you
Also
know
a lot of complexities in it.
it has complexities, but it's complicated, and like things break down and
Yeah.
people get angry and deadlines get missed, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of physical,
Yeah.
hard work to be done. So it's a very unglamorous life. We're there in our like hoodies and uh, sneakers, running around trying to put out fires every day.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very stressful day. But what's nice is I wake up, I like to meditate and exercise. Then I like to drop my two little kiddies to school and we talk in the car. From there, I kind of go to the warehouse, and that's when all the fights begin. So my morning is quite nice, but a day in my life is like very different to what you would imagine,
Right.
because it's just putting out a lot of fires every day, making a lot of decisions every day, small, medium, large. It's a lot of physical and mental
Yeah.
brain power.
Yeah, I love how open and honest you've been and transparent as well. And I'm really enjoying the conversation. But because we are also on the time limit, I just want to end with one question. Uh, People who probably want to be starting, whatever, their own hustle, their own thing, just final advice to them from your side.
Final advice would be, once you've had some time to think about your hustle, your side hustle, or a business idea or project, please put pen down to paper. Please analyze it. Please reach out to mentors, create mentors, speak with people, go for walks. But once you've reached that decision that this is a good decision and unanimously you come to it, no matter which way you think of it, take that leap, do it. You will not regret it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sakshi. Honestly, it's been so nice speaking to you, and I love the all it have it all attitude, the never give up spirit as well. And I feel like I see how it must have, it must be a very strong reason of why you are where you are. But it was an amazing conversation, and I hope to be doing this again in a year's time or 2 years' time with Food
That'll
Hack.
be nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
would love that.
amazing.
But thank you so much. I
Thank you for
really
having me.
appreciate this.
Great.